Is this thing running or what? Can you feel the love tonight? Teabag. Never hurt so much. And that's not the lyrics. Ooh, I can see myself. Okay, let's do an audio check. Testing, testing. Are we live? Are we live? I don't know. Let's... Nope, are we? Oh, I can hear myself. Any second now, I will get this weekly Friday live evaluation going. Just need to grab my cup of tea. It is tea time with Alex. So can you feel the love tonight? Down, down, down. Or did I just mess up the camera angle now? I didn't mean to do that. La la la, la 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 la. As I've said, we'll get started in a minute. Can you feel the love tonight? Okay, tea bag in cup. This time I'm going caffeine free. It's a blueberry Robios tea. I've had too much green tea this morning. Oh, that's not true. I actually had black tea this morning. Chai tea was awesome, but I am very caffeine sensitive, so I'm a bit like a rabbit runner now. Anyways, that's not what we'll be discussing right now, because it is Friday live evaluation. Just gonna get the mic up. And you know what? I think we are ready to hit the launch button and get this Friday live evaluation going. As soon as the camera angles are right, if I don't continue to mess them up. You have to think in reverse when you adjust the camera angle. Okay, sorry for the sweaty clothes. I just got back from the gym. I'm always being such a time optimist. Before doing the live stream, I want to go through my thoughts, and I do that best at the gym. Get the blood flowing, create some good emotions. But unfortunately, I always, well, it takes longer than I think. But here I am. It's Friday, and I have a cup of tea in my hand, and we are about to get dirty on this week's challenge. It has been all about practicing self-love. Yeah, that is kind of a topic. I mean, to be frank, I don't know if I would be watching a live stream from some random guy talking about self-love. It's such a topic. It's just weird, and that's why I'm still gonna do it. I don't know if that's any good selling point, but at least I'm doing this from the perspective of the book Loving Yourself to Death. I can't even remember the title. It's learning how, no, what's the title of the book? This is just live streaming nerves, I'm telling you. Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kamal Ravikant. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry if I might mispronounce it. But this guy wrote this book. He's a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and he failed miserably at some point in his life. Got to this bottom and then just taught how to love himself and wrote this very short book. You can get through it in less than an hour. I actually read through it right now down at the gym between my sets. So it's perfectly possible to just spend like 40 minutes of your time and get so much in return if you buy into the concept, because you do need to have some faith when you apply this. Okay, some structure here for this video. I'm gonna briefly just go through what the book says about how to practice self-love, and then I'm gonna share my insights and reflections from trying to apply this week. And spoiler, it has been a very, very good week. Let me just tell you that. And before saying too much, it's not the first time I'm introduced to the concept of self-love. I've been doing it before, and for me this week has more worked as a reminder for how to apply this. And that's perhaps why it has been so effective on me. It has had a huge impact on my life this week, but it came easily to me because I've discovered it previously, so it was more like a refresher, still tremendously powerful, and I just feel great about it. And I have some really good examples of how that has affected this week that I will let you in on. But first, let me just briefly share what the book is telling you. And basically it's a very hands-on practice for how to practice self-love. And Kamal, he puts it into 3 steps for how to love yourself. And the first thing is to have this mental loop. That is basically repeating "I love myself" to yourself over and over again. Having that pattern run and repeat in the back of your head. And for someone who hasn't done this, it's like, seriously, I don't believe it. Why should I say it? That's the part where you really need to have faith that eventually it will actually change something within you. But when you're not at that level, when you haven't experienced what it actually can do to you, it just feels silly. And that's the hardest part with this practice of self-love. It's like, really, that's just weird. Keep telling yourself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. It's weird, but I'm gonna get into my personal experience of that in a sec. First, the second step from his book, How to Practice Self-Love, is to have this sorry, it's the live streaming nerves again. We have the mental loop, and we have the oh man, I'm totally blanking out. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Maybe a cup of tea will do it for me. This is not happening. Okay, I still it's okay to fail sometimes. I mean, it's nerves. It's simple 3-step practice, and I'm just getting a bit nervous having you guys watching me. And so the 3-step process is still very simple. Yeah, the meditation part. Thank you. I'm not religious in that matter, but thank you, God. Practicing a meditation practice for 7 minutes, only 7 minutes, listening to a nice piece of music and just closing your eyes and breathing and telling yourself that you love yourself. This is like the mental loop, but you do it in a more focused, intense way, and you just have this 7-minute space where you do nothing but tell yourself you love yourself in a nice, quiet piece of space. And the last part, which I'm totally blanking out on right now. I actually have the notes right here. Why didn't I think of that? Sorry for messing this up. Yeah, the third step is the question to ask yourself: if I love myself truly and deeply, would I let myself experience this? Like, would I seriously put myself in this situation right now? Would I, if I'm in a situation where I feel like shit because something happened or whatever, if I really truly love myself, would I really do this to myself? Would I really judge myself in this way? And that's basically the 3-step process he puts out there in this very short and effective matter. And he actually has a 4th step, which also contains looking in the mirror, looking at yourself and telling yourself, looking into your eyes, that you love you. And that's a really tricky one. And it's really like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so that's what the book says. In the very gist of it, the very practical application, then he also, of course, share his personal view on this, because, I mean, this is very straightforward. It's really not rocket science. It's just a very personal, emotional story that he shares in a very straightforward way. And I think that's what's so powerful here, that you don't need tons of word pooing, the Swedish saying for when you're just filling out words. It's just very simple in theory. Then to actually go through this process and learning how to do this, it's so much harder. So let me start sharing how this has played out for me after a cup of tea. Sip. Because, as I've said, it's not my first introduction to trying to do this. But I've gone through a phase recently where I forgot how to feel this self-love. I forgot how to practice it, or just really take it in on a deep, deep level. Because it requires consciousness. It really does. It's like, if we come back to the 6 pillars of how to build self-esteem, the first pillar is the practice of living consciously. And over again, everything we do comes back to this practice. It's about being aware and taking in your reality, what is really going on. And again, this is also something that is hard. But the thing with all these practices that we're trying to learn, it's not about doing them perfectly. It's about each day taking a step in the right direction and starting to just have faith in the process, listening to people that have actually been through it, and then have faith in that it's doable for you. That's like the first thing you need to buy into, because if you're not accepting that it's even possible for you, if you're not opening up that door that you can actually enter that world of loving yourself, then you're not gonna do it. It's something you really need to deal with before doing it. And how do you do that? Well, for me, it's about asking the right questions. I over and over again come back to these questions that like switches the light on for me. Like, if I started to love myself, if I just play with the thought of loving myself, and somehow people says it's just a game changer, life gets awesome. If that was the reality, if life was that simple, if I could just start unconditionally loving myself, that everything would turn to saturated awfulness, great awesomeness. Wouldn't I do that? Wouldn't it be such an easy thing to just do that? Can I perhaps maybe just play with the concept and allowing myself to just try this out and see if maybe it works to me? I mean, it's not like I got nothing to lose if I'm down there. So just trying to like asking myself those questions, trying to shed light on what the actual issue is, that's what has worked for me to start to accept the idea of loving myself. And that really has worked for me, because when I've done these practices previously, I've over and over repetitively told myself, yeah, I love myself, without believing it at all, just doing it like the mechanical repetitive process. But eventually it stuck to me, and eventually it started to be anchored down within me. But that's like only one part. Then I had to go through the thoughts of, like I just told you here, what if this was the case? What if life would be great? But perhaps above all, I flipped it around. Do I perhaps have the responsibility to love myself? Because let's play out this scenario that I love myself. Then wouldn't I be able to contribute to the world in a better way? Wouldn't I be able to work more efficiently, do the things that I really want, like create content that could help other people? Because if I'm in a good place, I'm much more likely to actually create some good stuff that would actually help other people. Like when I turn that around, instead of looking at what I can do, what I can give back to life if I'm in a good place, instead of maybe hating myself, maybe just throwing myself into external entertainment like watching movies and series, just eating and feeling bad, that is not a place where I contribute to the world. That is not a place where something is coming out from me. So looking at it from that perspective, like I can't help other people when I am not helping myself. That kind of acted as a motivational factor that I owe it to myself to at least try to be in this state, try to love myself fully, because it's just when I'm able to do what I really want to do, and then it becomes this positive spiral, because Kamal talks about this. It's a double-edged sword, because it all comes down to emotions. We can actually create our emotions. We can put ourselves in a state. I can sit here and just decide to be angry. I can think about things that make me sad and angry and get into that state. I can create those emotions within me. I can go down that path, but I can also make the active choice of going the other direction. I can start to think about positive things. I can focus in on what really makes me feel good, and I can start to create emotions within me that makes me feel good. It's like we are in control of our emotions, and hence in the result of that, the actions we take, they will be a result of how we feel, the emotions we have within. If I then choose to go the good way, then the actions will be colored by that theme as well. So getting this insight that, yeah, I am in control of my emotions, that is also something that just makes it so obvious. Like it's a proactive instead of reactive state. I can choose how to feel. I can choose to love myself, because it's just a matter of accepting it. Because in the end, it's like the actions we do that defines us. If I choose to do things that I see is good for the world, that means that's kind of a list of things that I would consider to be things that add to the world in a good way, and doing those things make me feel that I love myself. So you choose how to do this. And if I choose how to love myself unconditionally, all the good things that I want to do, they come as a result of that, without much of an effort. And you see, this is such a fluffy topic, and it's quite hard to talk about without getting all over the place. But what I truly want to get down to, what I think is the core of this, is to dare to be vulnerable. Because when we're vulnerable, we are exposed to fear of rejection. We're exposed to be out of our comfort zone, and to not, we dare to show our true self, because that's really what loving ourselves is all about. We dare to be the ones we really are. And when we start to do that, we just start to feel alive. We realize that, hey, that is what life is all about. That's how I should live. It's like when you've seen that other side, it's like you don't want to go back. But still, we forget. We do. I've been there previously when I really loved myself, but then I forgot, because over time I forgot to do this practice. I forgot about it. But then this week came and I started to focus in on it. Focus. One thing is so important. And that re-sparked that self-love. And I was able to ask myself, aren't you supposed to be yourself right now? Aren't you supposed to just dare to do those things? Like post videos that you know maybe it's too much self-exposure of yourself, but it's what you do, it's what you really want to say. But you're paralyzed of other people's thoughts. To me, that's what being vulnerable is all about. Actively choosing not to let other people's opinion of you matter, because that's what drags me down. This came as a result of me being in social interactions and judging myself too hard. It made me feel really bad, because I was valuing other people's opinions of what they thought of me too highly. And that's not self-love. That's like the opposite. That's putting all the weight, putting all the, what do you say, the core of what matters in other people's hands. It removes me from the man in charge, letting other people's opinions decide who I am, what I should do, and what matters. That is so wrong. We are so many people in this world, and of course everybody's not going to like everybody. So that means we have to step in the role of being in charge of our own lives. We have to be in a position where we are our true self, because that's where we are supposed to do, and that is when we are able to contribute the most. That's when we're able to live our best selves, and that's when the magic happens. That's when we're able to make a difference, not doing something that other people want us to do, because then we can never add that, we can never go that extra length. We have to do things that really matters. And that's why I'm putting so much energy and focus into learning how to do these videos and stuff like that, because I just feel this is what I truly want to do. This is what really ignites me. And so again, this week when I've been practicing this self-love, doing these affirmations, telling myself I love me, asking myself these questions, like, why do I love myself? That's kind of a hard question. Or even worse, do I love myself? That's just yes or no question. Then we get the, why do I love myself? That's also a hard question, because it's emotional responses required, and emotions, that part of the brain, it is not gifted with the vocabulary way of expressing ourselves. But if you ask yourself, what do you love about yourself, then you can more pinpoint exactly what it is, your features that you really love about yourself. Like, I love that I'm super driven, and I love the growth process, and I have the grit and determination to do these things that takes me towards my goals. That's really something I love about myself, and that I want to improve the world. And again, this means we need to be vulnerable, and we need to trust ourselves and our ability to do what's right for us and share that with the world. Create stuff that has your unique mark on it, and then just be proud for that. So an event that happened this week, to contrast what happened last Saturday when I went to the party, and I felt like afterwards I was like so self-evaluating, had so many thoughts about how I interacted with people, and it felt like, oh, why did I say that? And I was just constantly judging and evaluating myself, not at all being in this good place. But then in this week we had this big regional meeting, and I had time to really get into the mood of accepting who I am, loving myself, and daring to be vulnerable. So when this big meeting came up with my consultant firm, and maybe it was like 40 people, and usually I'm really not enjoying those moments. It's like so much hard self-criticism, evaluating myself, not being able to enjoy the conversations because I'm just overthinking what I'm doing. But so this time it was just great, because I was just accepting and showing who I was, saying what I really thought and felt, and somehow I just escaped that self-evaluation process, which is almost always present otherwise. This time it was just a great evening, and I enjoyed the heck out of it, and I was able to actually put together a great movie, which I shared with my firm, and I got a really great response. And it was also kind of self-exposing of who I am, and it all just felt freaking great. And this continued throughout the week. I reminded myself over and over again, because you need to have that consciousness, you need to have that filter to ask yourself these questions. If I love myself, would I do this to myself? These specific questions that are out in the book, or like what I just said, it's not necessarily what will work for you. You have to just have these like light switches that breaks your negative pattern, that just wakes you up and makes you ask a question. I use the question of, would the ideal version of me, would the ideal Alex, that's something I usually quite often ask myself, would the ideal Alex really do this? And it's just like boof, puts me up in a third person perspective, and I can answer that question, and usually it breaks the negative pattern, the negative route I'm on right there and then. And I think that's something you need to try to do. Again, you need to have faith in the process. If you're in a dark place right now, you need to have faith that it will actually work its magic on you, because once you experience it, it's like you can just... I've been starting to bike this week again, so it's almost 2 hours of biking each day. And when you're just able to sit on the bike and you have the light, the nature, and you're just saying, I love myself, like that's what I've been trying to practice, applying the book this week. And when you reach the state where you can't help but to smile, you can't help but to like enjoy what's around you, and you can't help but to just be 100% filled out to the fingertips with just this warm, nice emotion, being pure love to yourself, being pure love to the world, being just an awesomeness and gratefulness for life, for this experience, for what you are experiencing right there and then. That's something you can't describe. I just tried to describe it, but you can't experience what it really feels to you until you are at that place yourself. And that again comes down to you. Have faith in the process and try to apply this. It's freaking awesome. And that's what I'm gonna say. But just to close this little live evaluation down, I just had this great experience on the gym right now. If you remember the video I did 2 weeks ago, where I tried to talk to girls for an accumulated time of 20 minutes. And then in the end of the video, I told you that I met this girl on the train. I didn't get her on tape because she didn't want to, and actually asked her. But as it happened, I was at the gym right now and I was doing some dumbbell presses, and this girl next to me, at first I didn't recognize her at all. I think you know where this is going. And eventually she asked if she could borrow one of my dumbbells, and then she said, yeah, sure, that's all right. And then a few minutes later she asked me again, and yeah, and I could feel something happen when we looked at each other, and she looked kind of familiar. And then this happened 2 or 3 more times, and I was just, man, who is this girl? I really recognize her. And then eventually she actually came up to me like, do we know each other? Your voice is super familiar. And the thing is, I have just read through the book, and I was like doing the mirror exercise, looking myself in the mirror at the gym, telling myself I love myself, but I was thinking it. I just was filled up with this good emotion, and then it's like life happened, and she came and asked that question because I didn't get her number or anything like that on the train. In Stockholm is quite a big city, so it's just such a random coincidence, realizing that, yeah, this was the girl I met 2 weeks ago, and she was super nice, and we just had some laughter and talked, and a great moment there. And it kind of was like a sign of, yeah, life is happening. I do really love myself. I do really love my life. And it was just, I don't know what it was, but it felt great, and it just felt like it signed off on this week's challenge being a truly powerful thing. Because when this piece falls to place, I think a whole lot of the rest of your life just get fixed, or the problems, the issues just they float away. They don't get the same attention. Man, did I went on a rant on this one, and I don't know, maybe this was just too much of a fluffy topic, and maybe I was too much all over the place, but I just felt I had to share this in this unique, through my point of view of this topic. And I do really recommend you read the book. I also recommend you to watch the video that I put together yesterday, which is an interview with this guy where he talks about this. But I must say, the number one thing in terms of like theory, or how to learn how to love yourself, how to be vulnerable, I think Brene Brown is doing the most amazing work on this. She's just, her work, she's a shame researcher, she's all focused on how to be vulnerable and how to apply that. She has some tremendous, well, both books, but also interviews and TED Talks, a whole lot of material that is just wow. One of these things is a top 10 Brene Brown video. I can link it down there. It's like 36 minutes. It's quite kind of the gist of what she says. But what's hard with these things, like the condensed videos, when we address a topic like that, it's nothing you can grasp from that short amount of time. That's why I love books in that sense. It's something I'm not naturally the kind of guy that start listening to a book because it's like, whoa, 10 hours, can't I just get that in a more condensed way? But in the extreme case of a shortened edition of a book, it's like a quote. That's like in the very end of the shortened version of a book, a quote. And sure, a quote can be inspirational, but it won't get you that deep understanding. Sometimes you just need to go through the whole process of a book. Sometimes you need to go through the personal stories that you may think is like, oh, this is just fluffy filler thing to make this book be thicker. But most of the times, when it's a good book at least, those things make you get the topic really, you really get it when it's put in a context. You really put it in your own perspective as well. It's like it really sinks down in a whole different way. So I love these short videos to get an initial hunger for how to get deep, for getting deeper into the topic. But in the end, for me at least, listening to the whole Brene Brown books about being vulnerable, The Gift of Imperfection, those moments really have been like a game shifter for me. So I really recommend listening to her work. But I will put the video down there to the top 10 Brene Brown things that she recommend. Super awesome. Super awesome. With those words, I think I'm gonna sign off and get back to my reality. Drink my tea, which is starting to get cold. I thank you for watching. I thank you for being awesome. And I will see you on Sunday when the next week's challenge will be put out to the world, put out to you. And well, we'll just have to see what it will be because I'm not clear on that yet. So, my name is Alexander Nilsson. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being awesome. See you in the next one. Bye, guys. Can I manage to do this? I never see where the stop button is.